Kunos is annoyingly putting EVO in an impossible position to the point I could consider it the Half-Life 3 of sim racing titles. Let me explain. The original Assetto Corsa, planned or not, became big, really big. It is today probably the largest sim racing title in player counts. 0.3 is out after a bit of a hiatus to add some well-needed polish in this title, and expectations couldn't be higher for EVO. For over a decade, the Assetto Corsa name has meant basically two things: driving realism and a community-driven sandbox where basically anything is possible. The original game became legendary not because of its launch content or even the way it finished, but because of the modders, the leagues, the communities that turned it into one of the most diverse sim racing platforms ever. EVO is promising to be the next step, a sequel that combines some of the polish, the structure, and the realism with the freedom that made the original so beloved, with the free roam integrated to boot. But here's the catch: it's trying to be a lot of things at once. A competitive multiplayer platform, a hardcore simulator, a moddable playground, we'll see about that, a racing service, and then some sort of hardcore sim racing title or hardcore driving sim. And we can't forget, of course, the social part of the free roam. And in chasing all of these goals, EVO may have set itself an impossible task. But before going to my argument, a big thank you to all the members of the channel. If you enjoy this type of content, please leave a like and subscribe. I'm trying to get 100,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. The first big change with EVO is its format. When the original Assetto Corsa launched back in 2014, and even before that, if you went through the early access, it was a simple game. It's stupidly simple. Bare bones, with bare bones everything. Bare bones content, bare bones features, bare bones AI. That still continues today. But what it did was offer openness. It gave players freedom to experiment. Modders got the tools to create, and communities had the chance to build their own spaces. Assetto Corsa physics are good enough. Modding is simple, made simpler with Content Manager even. Everything flows, and with Assetto Corsa Competizione it went another way. It was more laser focused, mostly polished and licensed around the GT3 class and GT4 and a little bit more. It's brilliant if you want to simulate GT racing, but limited outside of that. But it's still, because of that, it still worked. EVO is trying to bridge these two worlds. That's a significant shift in philosophy, so you don't really get that sandbox feeling as before. It's an attempt somewhat to become a service, and that shift sets the stage for one of the game's biggest challenges. To understand why EVO's changes are so controversial, you need to understand the role the community has always played in Assetto Corsa's success. Put simply, without its community, Assetto Corsa would have been forgotten years ago, probably a year or two after its last update, just like happened with Project Cars 2, because nowadays, being a sim with good physics isn't good enough. It always needs some sort of lasting appeal. After all sims nowadays are the most advanced ever TM. Instead, because of that little feature called modding, it became the sim racing world's de facto sandbox. For Assetto Corsa, community isn't optional today. And because of it, and because this is basically the successor to Assetto Corsa, community isn't going to be optional for EVO as well. If they want EVO to succeed, it is essential. If the community can't thrive under EVO's new system, the game risks alienating the very people who built its reputation, well, unless multi-platform part of it actually booms and it's really good. That leads me to EVO's most controversial change, which will be the new multiplayer server system. In the past, actually today, if you want to do it, communities could spin up their own servers. A small league could rent cheap hosting or even run races of someone's spare PC. That freedom kept grassroots racing alive. Dozens, if not sometimes hundreds of leagues thrive this way, offering everything from casual drift nights to full-blown endurance championships, or if you want to, free roams. A lot of free roams. And EVO changes that, because there are only now two options. You have the free public servers, which are curated by Kunos, These are supposed to be stable, always on, but limited to preset combinations of tracks, cars, and weather. They're great for casual drop-in play, but they don't serve the needs of organized communities. But the paid dedicated servers are rented directly from Kunos. These are customizable, but the pricing model is steep, about €1 per driver slot per month. That means a 20 driver league faces monthly costs of €20 or more before even considering long-term seasons or endurance events or multi-splits. This is anywhere from 2 to 5 times the increase if you want to pay for a server, because self-hosting from your own computer was also always possible. But it is not now. Of course, this is with leagues alone, because Assetto Corsa is about that diversity. Free roam is one of the biggest things out there, and imagine trying to get those 32 or more server slots with multiple servers at the same time for each community when they are self-funded. For large organizations, maybe that is manageable, maybe, if they want to pay, of course, but for smaller grassroots groups that basically kept AC alive, these prices are steep. What used to be a hobby that anyone could organize with a bit of effort now requires ongoing fees, and the fact that self-hosting doesn't seem to be a thing anymore makes it even worse. Communities have no alternative but to pay if they want to go to EVO. This is where EVO risks suffocating the very lifeblood of its ecosystem, because community leagues don't just provide races, they provide culture, creativity, and the sense of belonging that turns a game into a platform. If those leagues or teams or communities can't afford to exist under EVO's server system, the community is going to shrink, and with it, basically EVO's long-term potential. I don't think this way that for a long time, or even at all, these communities are going to migrate if Assetto Corsa is around. That brings us to the most dangerous challenge for EVO. Then it will be basically about trust in Kunos, because every decision Kunos has made about servers is kind of defensible in its isolation, because you have a paid centralized hosting that in theory ensures stability. Free curated servers provide an easy point of entry, and from the developer's perspective, managing infrastructure this way actually makes sense. But from a community's perspective, it looks like a big wall being built around something that used to be open, and what was once basically free or very cheap is now becoming more costly. What was once flexible is now controlled. For players and communities who spent years keeping Assetto Corsa alive, that feels like somewhat of a betrayal, I think. If Kunos doesn't manage this carefully, they risk more than just criticism. They risk losing face with the very people who define Assetto Corsa's identity: the leagues, the modders, the grassroots organizers. These aren't just users, they are the foundation of the franchise. And once you lose rapport with them, it's nearly impossible to win it back. Personally, I don't think that pushing back the launch or leaving space between updates is a problem. I actually welcome this, and I think 0.3 is a good update overall. But there is something about the pushing back, and one of the biggest frustrations around EVO's early access roadmap, and that is the missing free roam modes. From the beginning, Kunos presented free roam as basically a headline feature, a chance to take the cars off the track, explore open environments, and create casual events beyond, the structured racing. For drifters, cruisers, and community servers, this was a promise that kept them paying attention. And crucially, it wasn't just a vague someday feature. Kunos has suggested that it would land around summer 2025, squarely in the middle of early access. But summer is essentially, at the moment I'm writing this, just a few weeks away of becoming autumn, and free roam is nowhere to be found, and there's no playable builds, no meaningful update, and barely even communication about its status. Instead of being a highlight of early access, the mode feels like it's slipped off the radar completely, and now it's being pushed back somewhat to release, whenever that is. This absence is more damaging than normal for a normal delay, because free roam isn't just another track or another car. Actually, it's much more than that. It's a single feature that connects EVO to the casual and creative communities that made the original Assetto Corsa thrive. By pushing this back indefinitely, or not giving it, a target in the future, it will leave players unsure if it will even arrive before full release, or even if it's going to be there at release, because if it slides back now, what it's going to stop it from sliding back later. Because of this, EVO risks losing the very audience that was most excited for the game's open-ended potential. And where does that leave Assetto Corsa EVO? It is trying to balance a curated modern platform with the openness of its past. It's trying to appeal to competitive racers, casual players, and modding communities all at once. And it is doing so under a new server system that, while maybe more polished and professional, threatens to undermine the very communities that made Assetto Corsa legendary. That is, by any measure, an impossible task in my opinion. But here's the thing, impossible doesn't mean unworthy. I think EVO's ambition is precisely what makes it interesting. It dares to combine the stability with freedom, the structure with creativity, grassroots with, more polish. However, the higher it aims, the more it needs to actually hit. Because just like Half-Life 3, that kind of build-up and promises created not just hype, but impossible expectations. The question is now whether it can keep the community on board while doing so, because if EVO prices out small leagues and alienates grassroots organizers, it won't just fail to achieve the impossible, it will actually lose the soul of what made Assetto Corsa special in the first place.